Guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be doing something kind of out of the norm for my channel, and I've only got like 10 videos out, so I don't even know if there is a norm yet. But the idea for this video just kind of kept coming back to me over the past month or so, and it's weirdly kind of vulnerable to talk about this just because honestly it makes me feel a little bit like a fraud. But I just want to talk about how in the heck did it all happen. I just turned 30 last fall and have been doing a lot of reflecting on my career and the random odds and ends of it all, and how luck and talent, but hard work, but also random things have kind of like led me to where I am. And for two reasons, I just feel like this is good to talk about. Number one, I don't know a lot of you. If you have subscribed to my channel or if you are new here, it could be good to just know who the heck this dude is and why should I stay and watch, or what value does this random guy on the internet actually bring to what I'm trying to do in music. And so my hope is just to bring some context for who I am and my outlook on all things music and business. And secondly, hopefully my story just encourages you to not give up on what you're pursuing. I'm assuming if you're here, that's music, but whether it's video or painting or art or whatever, I think creativity is so valuable, and if you want it to be, can be a monetary thing in your life. And I truly do believe with all my heart that your passions, whether that's in the creative field or something else, can be the thing that you do full time if you're willing to be patient, put in the work, fall on your face, be humble, listen to good advice, and inevitably and unfortunately have just the littlest bit of luck. So in this video, I just wanted to go through all the iterations of my studio setup and how that's progressed over the past 11 to 12 years. And also just kind of talk a little bit about my story and how I found myself doing this at 30, making a great living. So originally I am from a really small farm town in rural Kentucky. I grew up in a really musical family. My dad's a bass player. My mom is a pianist and a singer. I have a whole lot of siblings and a lot of them play instruments as well. So I kind of just came up in it, mostly just, late night garage jam sessions, and moving into middle school, high school, did some bands and cover bands and different things like that just in my little town. And all that was really fun to me, but kind of as an emotional safe place and an outlet, I found myself mostly enjoying just being alone, writing songs and finding ways to capture them and perfect them. And really what I was doing, which I had no idea I was doing, was producing. At 16, 17, I couldn't have even told you what a music producer was or did, and really just had zero clue on how to even capture my vocal or piano or drums the correct way. And so hilariously, my first studio iteration when I was 16, 17 was just in my bedroom, and I was gifted a keyboard for Christmas and found out that if I soldered an 8mm aux cable into a 1/4 inch, then I could plug in my keyboard to the 1/4 inch, and the 8mm aux input could go into the mic line of my computer. And through the depths of Google searches, I stumbled on the resilient and beautiful software called Audacity. I love you if you know what Audacity is. It is a free, super bare bones recording software that you can download for free on the internet. And so I found a way to record my piano, and similarly found a way to record my vocal through the keyboard into this aux input mic line thing. But at 17 years old or so, I went to Guitar Center to get my first quality vocal mic. And I had a budget of about $80 and I was ready to go run the world. So I go to Guitar Center and kind of share with them my recording setup at home. So absolutely proud of what I'd come up with. And I was like, this is just the way everyone does it, because this is the way you get sound into your computer. And I told them my setup, and rightfully so, they kind of laughed in my face and they were like, well, do you know what an audio interface is? And I was like, sure don't. And so funny enough, I kind of made my own audio interface, just trying to get audio into digital form somehow. And so at 17, I got my first 2-channel PreSonus Studio Live interface, and that came with the intro software to PreSonus Live. And honestly, the world was my oyster. I ran with that for 2 to 3 years and cut my first 3 or 4 projects ever using that software and my 2 channels, using only stock plugins, and honestly just fell in love with it. Still didn't know that I was producing, even though I was getting musicians and songwriters from my school to come over and let me record their songs for free. I really found myself in this producer role without even knowing that that's what it was. I just wanted to record my friends so I could make something sound good on my computer. So I would call this next phase 2 of my career. So fast forward just a little bit, I'm now 18. I've moved to Kansas City, and I have found this studio on Facebook. Obviously, at this point, was just fascinated with them, and so I messaged this random studio that I saw on Facebook and get a message back pretty quickly. And this guy was like, "Dude, yeah, come over anytime. I'll show you around." And what I didn't know at the time, but what would soon turn into my studio mentor type figure for quite a long time. I met Jared Logan. He was the owner of the studio called JTL Group. Went over to say what's up and just see the studio, and that was kind of all I had in mind. And it turned into an hour or so conversation that kind of just gave me insight into the world a little bit more and kind of talked me out of pursuing the college route for music, and instead just wanted to get more hands-on experience under people in the industry. And so at 18, I was grinding, waiting tables, and had a second job at night. Meanwhile, was using that to pay for an apprenticeship at JTL Group that lasted 3 months. And that really just sparked this fire in me to where I left that 3 months and I was like, no matter what it takes, I want to be doing this every day for work as my full-time job. And so for the next 4 or 5 years after my apprenticeship there, I was honestly just hustling. I was working so hard. I had 2 jobs, was just saving every penny I could to buy as much studio gear as possible. Because really my setup at this point was still just very bare bones. I just had a cheap mixer in my bedroom and my 2-channel interface. And I was honestly just kind of on this mission to collect as much gear as possible. Being primarily a drummer, you just need a lot of mics and a lot of inputs. But I didn't have a lot of money. And so kind of entered the game of trading gear around and collecting mics and upgrading mics and just playing that whole game for the next 4 or 5 years. Had a couple different studio situations where I shared space, did it out of my bedroom, went in on a house with a buddy and converted his unfinished basement into our studio, then left that situation and went into another living situation with my studio in my bedroom, then went in with a different friend in their basement. And all that to say, it was really just a handful of years of finding my way and really just failing a lot, trying to get my feet more and more wet with client work and landing clients. And meanwhile, while having these 2 jobs and trying to build my production career, I was also drumming pretty full time with a few different worship artists at the time, was doing a whole lot of touring and traveling with that, and was honestly just doing everything I could to make an extra dollar to buy the next piece of gear. So that whole saga kind of started in 2013-ish. And honestly, I was doing that grind for about 5 or 6 years, which kind of leads me into the phase 3 of my career. So fast forward, it is now mid-2018, almost working a 3rd job, which is my production job, almost full-time at this point. But I just had this crippling fear, which is maybe in a lot of entrepreneurs, that if I take this leap into full-time and trust this thing that I've been building to fully support me, clients could disappear and it could all dry up in a day or a week or a month. Honestly, in hindsight, I think I could have jumped off the cliff into full-time sooner. But, I'm thankful for those years of paying my dues and grinding to make it happen. So mid-2018, I commit to the leap into full-time, primarily doing client production and renting out studio time as an engineer in my space. And right around this time, full circle, Jared Logan, who I mentioned earlier, reached out to me and he's like, hey man, we're building an extension onto the studio and we're gonna have a few new rooms open up. Do you wanna rent? That was probably the scariest leap of my career yet, because the price tag on that was more than any studio overhead for myself that I've ever committed to. But also it just meant like, if I say yes to this, it means that this is my job. This is what I do now. Whereas before, even in conversations with clients and friends and stuff, it was always like, yeah, I'm pursuing music and like, I'm an aspiring producer, but taking the leap into renting commercial space, having a studio that's not in my house for people to come to, it just really gave me this ownership over myself and my career. It's like, nope, I am a producer. Here's my studio. Come meet me at my studio address. And it really just kind of changed my mindset, even about myself. Officially took the leap into commercial space in late 2018. And for the next 5-ish years, worked at JTL Group as a self-owned producer. In my time there, worked with well over 100 clients, cut hundreds of songs in that room. Dearly, dearly miss it. But essentially under the JTL roof, there was 8 producer writer rooms. Basically everyone that worked in there was a self-owned producer or writer or mixer. And we all just kind of did a co-space sort of vibe under one roof, but all had our separate businesses that went to work at this collective of sorts. So did that for about 5 years, learned so much. They introduced me into the sync licensing space, which kind of veered my career in a bit of a different direction, which I'm super thankful for. And yeah, basically near my last year or two there, I just got more and more opportunity to come to Nashville, whether it be for co-writes or drum sessions or drum gigs, little production jobs here and there. And these opportunities and invites became so consistent that I almost couldn't help but start to consider the move to Nashville. And so after 6 months to a year of really considering it, my wife and I pulled the trigger on the decision to move here, which kind of brings me to the final chapter in my current chapter, Nashville. So now it is early 2025, and I've been in Nashville for a little over a year and a half. I've basically just been producer for hire in Nashville, and I've really been dipping my hand into sync licensing in a more intentional way and really just giving more time and effort to that space. And I'll just show you kind of the current iteration of my home studio. I am back at home. The culture of studios in Nashville just kind of feels more palatable to do it at home and then go rent a nice studio if I want to cut drums or need to go like do something specifically that I need a bigger room for or more channels for or whatever. Yeah, but if you made it this far in the video, honestly, thanks for even caring enough to hear my story. And, you know, this is my chapter 4, as I would call it, but who knows what chapter 5, 6, and 7, and 8 will be. I've kind of just learned for myself. I just want to stay flexible and kind of follow the wind of what's working and not working and what opportunities are leading me in different directions. And I guess stay tuned for chapter 5. I'll just leave with a little plug on myself and what I do and offer. Yeah, I would say I'm one of those producer, writer, mixer guys in Nashville, kind of forced to wear a lot of hats a lot of times. And yeah, I am a producer for hire. So if that interests you at all, I've got a bunch of projects and different things I've worked on my website. I've also got some drum packs, a whole bunch of projects in the sync licensing space. And I've also just started doing apprenticeships. If you're interested in hanging out with me for a week in the studio and just kind of learning different ins and outs of studio and recording and production, I kind of cater those weeks to things that you might be interested in learning, whether that's recording live drums, producing vocals, mixing, or the business side. Really anything in this world that I feel like I bring value in, I would love to hang out with you for a week and help you connect some dots. I guess I'll leave you with that. And again, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Peace.